All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your next episode of RE in Real Time. This is episode 12. Make sure you subscribe and like on all the platforms. Here are your hosts, Forrest and Lonnie.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Good morning, Forrest.
Good morning, Lonnie. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Beautiful day in Manassas.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, good morning.
You know, we had Art Grace on
we did.
a while back. Well, Art was was over at his office.
Yeah.
He's doing great as usual.
Yep.
Great sense of humor. I love seeing Art. But I was over there because his son, Hudson.
Yep, I know Hudson.
Hudson is awesome. Now, Hudson, they grew up in the same neighborhood where when you were in Northern Virginia. You guys were over in Piedmont.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's where they were. Well, Hudson, of course, you know him as a little kid, and now he's a man.
All grown up. Yeah.
Do you realize that was, at age 26,
Uh-huh.
a couple years ago, that was his fifth settlement.
His fifth house.
Fifth settlement.
Settlement.
Fifth settlement because he has now his fifth property.
Okay.
So Art calls me and says, hey, my son Hudson graduated from JMU. And he really is interested in investing in real estate. Well, remember when we had the whole COVID thing and I did those trainings for you guys and for the regions?
I do.
And they were recorded. So I said, hey, look, I've got these recordings. Have Hudson take a look at them, see if he's interested.
Yeah.
So he takes a look at them. Art calls me and says, hey, can we take you to dinner at Capitol Grill?
And you're like, sure.
Well, I'm like, if you pay for it, I'll go by myself.
Absolutely.
It's Capitol Grill.
Yeah.
Right. This is awesome. And so he comes. He has two of his sons. Hudson's there, and Hudson really was interested in investing. So he has saved his money. It's an amazing story. At age 26, 24, he gets all of this. By 26, he has 4 condos. 2 of which he bought on his own, and 2 he has with a partnership with 2 other guys.
All right.
And he has now an owner-occupied. He has a condo that he bought. He's already got renters for both of the other bedrooms.
Okay.
So he's going to be in 1 bedroom. He's renting the other 2 bedrooms. His mom was involved. Art was involved. Everybody was involved, and helping out with the decorations. We were there. It was me and Tammy. It was just really even his uncle was there, the whole family. So it was super exciting for this kid, 26 years old.
So house number 5 in 3 years?
And it's just over 2 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He gets out. Great. He's interested in it. But here's the difference.
Yeah.
He takes action.
Yeah.
He takes action. He does it, and he set a goal. He set a goal. He writes down his goals.
That's great.
So his goal, by the time he's 30, he wants to have a net worth of $1 million. And you and I both know getting to that first million is the real hard work.
Absolutely.
And then it just starts growing from there. All these properties just in conjunction with one another just keep growing with all the 4 benefits of investing. So it made me so happy because it's rare that, you talk to a lot of people, and I've been talking to people about investing in real estate for some time, but it's rare when you have somebody that actually takes action. It's such a young age, and by the time he's our age, this kid's going to be a decamillionaire. He is a disciplined investor.
Which is great.
And
which leads us to what today's podcast is all about, right? I mean, why did we start Next Home the Agency Group? Like, what is the purpose? I mean, there are hundreds of real estate brands out there, right? There are all kinds of models out there. Why are we different? And I get asked this all the time, right? So our goal is to facilitate, tenancy to the dream, right? Helping people who are renting become homeowners, and also helping people who already own homes create generational wealth, right? It's not just about the transaction for us.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. We're going to talk about sales today. We're going to talk about helping buyers. But now that we're on it, why don't we talk about property management?
Exactly.
So with a property management, you have folks that own properties, and then you have folks that rent properties. Well, a lot of times, I'll ask a group of people. So if I'm doing a seminar, I say, hey, what's the biggest reason why people don't want to invest, why they don't want to have a rental property? And it's number one is the tenant.
It's
right?
a 2 a.m. plumbing call, right?
It's a tenant.
The toilet is overflowing, or there's a leak, or
right. But here's the deal:
Yeah.
there are millions of great tenants.
absolutely.
And but here's the thing about tenants, that you only hear the bad stuff, and it makes people not want to be landlords.
Sure.
And so it's kind of a setup question, because I say, you know, what's the number one reason? Of course, I know it's going to be tenants. So they say tenants, and then I say, okay, raise your hand in here if you've ever rented. And they
And
all
everybody
hand.
raised their hand.
And then I said, you're the problem.
That's right.
You know, you guys are the problem. You're the tenants.
Yeah.
But everybody starts out. You get out of college. You move out of your parents' home.
Start somewhere.
And you start somewhere, and then you start renting, and then you start to go. So the tendency to the dream is taking the tenant and saying, how can you be the best tenant if you aspire to have the dream of home ownership?
Absolutely.
And it's credit. You know, how do you build credit? Credit's free. Credit's free, but you have to know all the components of credit.
Sure.
And all the components of credit is what actually allows you to bump your to bump your credit. Having no credit and having no credit cards and having no car loans isn't the best way to build your credit.
Sure.
Being a responsible borrower is. The next thing is how you're paid. You know, W-2, 1099, part-time, or you're doing Uber. All of these things are taken into consideration when you qualify for a loan. You know, and the next thing with Tendency to the Dream is all of the programs that are available to folks. Most people think they need 20% down.
Yeah, I mean, most communities have special lending programs where you can get in for zero, and they're helping you with closing costs. They're giving you a reduced rate, especially like first responders and military and teachers. Yeah, people who serve the community. There's so many programs out there.
So many
now.
programs, and a VA, zero down.
Yep.
FHA 3.5% down. VHDA, you're probably about 1.5% down.
Sure.
There's so many programs that, in addition to what you'd pay for the first month's rent and a security deposit, you may almost be there.
Absolutely.
And a great tenant that aspires to buy is a great tenant, the landlord.
Absolutely. And people ask me all the time, well, why are you guys involved in property management? You know, and we kind of were on the sidelines of property management for a long time because we worked for a large corporation, and they actually compartmentalized their property management organization or department. But we're making property management front and center, right? So our goal, and I don't mind, making this public, but our business plan is to have 500 doors per location, right? So we're in Manassas, we're going to have 500 doors. We're in Charleston, we're going to have 500 doors. We're in Myrtle Beach, we're going to have 500 doors. That's our goal. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to have 500 tenants that we're able to show them how they can become owners. And then we want to have 500 landlords that we can show them how they can buy their next investment property and build generational wealth. So this isn't just about, having another revenue source or another line of business. This all works into the bigger plan of it being an integral part of our business.
Yeah, and the landlords, there's a difference between somebody that has a property that they rent and an intentional investor.
Absolutely.
So our programs with the owners of properties, with the landlord, is being an intentional investor. What are the 4 benefits of owning an investment property? You have the income. You have the appreciation. The property goes up in value. You have the depreciation. The depreciation is all the tax advantages that you get because you invest in real estate. And then you have the principal reduction. When you own a home and you're paying your payment, you have to go to work, earn that money to pay your payment. When you have an investment property, the principal on your loan is being reduced by the tenant's payment. they're buying a building for you.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
tenants are going to work, working hard, keeping their jobs so they can buy a building for you. So now there's 4 people in investment properties
Yeah.
buying buildings for Hudson Grace.
Yeah. Which
Isn't
is
that awesome? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the reason we have a property management division is we want to take that, losing sleep at night kind of attitude out of the process, right? So they can hire us. We can be available for those late night calls if it happens, right? We can also help them, manage the process, right? I mean, how many landlords have we talked to that they haven't raised their rent in 10 years
It's crazy.
because, it's a good tenant. Of course it's a good tenant. It's a great tenant. But the expectation is you're at least keeping up with inflation and you're at least covering your cost. And if it's a true investment, the rent needs to be raised on a regular basis based upon the market. So
Nobody knows this better than commercial real estate folks.
absolutely.
They understand in the leases in commercial buildings, because they aren't year to year. They generally chunks of time, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years,
yeah.
and then they have periods of time that can be added on at the unilateral decision of the tenant. All of them negotiate escalators. It may be 4% per year. It may be 3% per year. Most do at least 3%.
Yep.
Because over the last 50 years, inflation has raised at least 3%. So goods and services are about a 3% increase. If I
Cost of
don't
living.
raise the rent, the dollar today,
Uh-huh.
which is a real full dollar today, is only going to be 97 cents next
That's
year.
right. That's right.
And then the compound effect works it down instead of working it up.
And 10 years later,
That's
right.
not an investment.
No.
I'm not saying that you're not fair to tenants, but let me tell you how it works for tenants. So if I'm a tenant and I have a year lease, I call the owner and I say, look, I'd like to go ahead and continue to rent. The 3% escalator, in the event that they want to rent, protects them.
Yep.
So let's say it's $2,000. They know if they renew, it's only going to be $60.
Yep.
But what's happening now is, let's say they have a $2,000 rent, and it's a single family home, and it's $700 under market.
Yep.
If there's not an escalator built into that lease, the tenant now is subject to a $700 increase at discretion of
Where
the
it
owner.
could have been $60.
$60.
Absolutely.
So it isn't a bad thing for a tenant to have an escalator because it sets expectations with everybody involved. You have a year lease. In the event the lease goes beyond the year, you know exactly what the increase is going to be. Presumably, wages were supposed to go up 4% this year. So as they do, your wage goes up 4%. The amount you're paying in lease, only 3%. You know what to expect. The landlord is keeping up with inflation.
Yep.
It is a solid model and protects both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about our, the clientele that we've been attracting to, the real investors. I mean, we have great properties, right? And the reason we have great properties is we choose to work with landlords who, they take care of their properties and they care about their tenants and how their tenants are going to, live and operate within that property, right? So we make sure there aren't, outstanding maintenance issues and things like that. But as a result, we've also created a clientele of tenants who aspire to buy, right? They know they're not going to be there for 10 years or 15 years, right? And they're working with us to try to figure out, okay, how can I make this happen? And we have landlords that understand that and they encourage that as well. And so if a tenant finds a property and they have an opportunity to buy, maybe there's a couple months left on the lease, and we go to one of our owners, I'm pretty confident that the owner will allow us to work with that tenant and help them make their dream come true. Do you agree?
Know something? I agree 100%, Lonnie.
Yep.
And what I have done, just to practice exactly what you just said, is I have sent letters to every one of my tenants. And I have said, instead of renting from me, you need to buy.
Yep.
Come to our class, Tendency to the Dream, so we can help you get there. In the event that they want to buy, I am going to end the lease. I don't care what day of the month they're buying. It's the 15th of the month. I'm ending the lease, their responsibility to me on that date.
Yep.
And then they are going to be into the dream of homeownership. It is hard to maneuver around lease dates.
Sure.
I'm going to make it super easy. And since I'm the owner, I have the ability to do that. Whereas if I have an owner that we represent,
Yeah.
I would have to tell him the advantage of that. And the advantage is, if you have an excellent tenant that aspires to buy a home, they've been a great tenant for the landlord. And working with the landlord and saying, hey, as soon as we get a replacement tenant, they will pay prorated to that point.
Yep.
They become the best person to show a property.
Yeah.
Every time I've done this for now decades, every time I've
The
had a
house is
tenant,
perfect when
Well,
the
it's
prospect shows up.
hey,
Yeah.
Forrest, I got a job in Maryland
Yeah.
to run one of their Texas Roadhouse steaks, a manager to open up one of the steakhouses. But I've got 8 months left on my lease. Not a problem. We're going to get a replacement tenant in there.
Yeah.
ASAP. As soon as we do, then you are no longer responsible for the lease. So we send them an agreement so they allow us to do it, to show the property. You go in there, that place is beautiful. It's ready to roll.
Yeah.
And there are, because everybody's working together. We get the replacement tenant in, they're relieved, and they move on. So I do it not just for people that want to buy, because people would say, well, that's a selfish reason for us. You're going to make a commission. Job transfer, situation transfer.
Absolutely.
They got a promotion. They're still in the area, but it's a little bit further. They've realized that living on their own isn't the thing to do. They want to move back in with their parents. Relationship challenges.
Sure.
Whatever
Life
it is,
happens, right?
I'm going to work with you every time.
Yeah.
Let's work together and meet your goals.
Yeah. You can't be upset, or people aren't upset about a business owner or a landlord, making the decision to raise the price, especially when you have a landlord that is willing to work with you on the other side and help you get to where you want to go. Right. So it's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win. There's no surprises.
Yeah, absolutely.
The expectations are set. Hey, I'm only going to be here for a year.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
I'm only going to be here for a year.
But life happens, right?
But often they're not. In the event that you're here for over a year, let's not create any anxiety.
Yeah.
Let's just say in that event, it's going to be a 3% increase. $2,000, it's going to be $60. And the landlord has pre-agreed to it.
Yep.
It's just a matter of us reminding you and giving you a notice that it's changing, but where there's no renegotiation.
Well, when you manage expectations, the stress goes away, basically, right? You don't have to worry about it. Well, let's talk a little bit about, we're a real estate company. We're not just a management company, right? We're a little bit of both. So we have agents, representing both buyers and sellers in South Carolina and in Virginia. And, we operate, after the settlement, and after August 17th, we operate according to the settlement, right? And we do things the right way. And our agents are very educated in how to operate in that environment. I'm very proud of them. I think they've done a great job. But tell us a little bit, like if you're a seller, what can you expect from one of our salespeople and from our team?
Yeah, so that's I'm here in Manassas, so I'll just talk about Manassas. Yeah. And if you were to list with us, the first thing is we want you go ahead and notify us early. Let us come out there. If you're gonna sell in May or in June or even in July, just say, hey, let's go ahead and get what I call the pregame. Let's get a plan set up. Let's take a look at your home. What we offer in Manassas is we offer to do a home inspection at our cost. And the reason we do that is because we know, I mean, it's what Pareto's principle. It's 80-20 rule. People live in 20% of their house.
Yeah.
They come in, They go to the kitchen. Nobody's except for that. There
Kitchen,
are,
bathroom,
I'm not
bedroom.
going to say nobody doesn't climb up in their roof and examine it, because there's going
Sure.
to be that guy or girl that does that.
Yeah.
But that's the exception. The rule is 80-20 rule. They're going to be in 20% of that property, and they're just not going to know what's up in the attic. They're not going to be able to, know that a shingle blew off or whatever it
Sure.
is dislodged. So let's find out the condition of the property. Now, the reason that's so essential is when you know that up front and you have time to manage any repair. Let's say you have a homeowner that is extremely handy.
Sure.
They may be able to take care of 80% of whatever has come up on that list. The problem when you get under contract, let's say you don't do that, you get under contract, and now the buyer does a home inspection. Buyer does a home inspection. Any repair that is agreed upon has to not be unilateral, it has to be bilateral. Both parties not only have to agree on the repair, but it has to be by a licensed, insured contractor in the state of Virginia. The very handy person that can do a task that you wouldn't think would need a professional now has to have a professional.
Yeah, it adds to the cost, right? And in a lot of cases, it's just not necessary. Yeah.
We had one where we had a home inspection, and got a contract subject to a home inspection.
Sure.
Hey, would you guys share the home inspection you've already done? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Shared it. They said, we don't need to do a home inspection.
Yeah.
So we already knew exactly what to expect. So it gives, if you have something that you're going to sell, why wait and have somebody else do a home inspection?
Yep.
That is that may very well turn something up that you're only saying, I wish I would have known this
Wish I would have known.
beforehand. We could have had this taken care of. Why are we finding out at the last minute? When you're under contract, time is of the essence. You already have a settlement date.
Yep.
Everything is on a time deadline. Why put yourself under that pressure? And then some people will say, well, if we don't do a home inspection up front, then we don't have to disclose anything that's wrong with the property. And I'd say, you know something? If you're concerned about future litigation, that may not be the best way to proceed. Future litigation, something you should, we negotiated where there was no home inspection. Once the folks move in and you get water in the basement, or you have an issue, or you have a fire issue, you have some problem, and they didn't do a home inspection because they were so pressured not to do one.
Sure.
Then I think that it doesn't mean somebody's going to be sued, but it raises the likelihood of litigation.
Yeah.
And why even do that when you can take care of it? Now, there's some people that'll say, we don't need a home inspection. We're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
We're selling our property the way it is. As is. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I would have to agree. If we're going to do a home inspection, only for you to say we're not doing anything, then it probably is not going to be beneficial.
Sure. But most sellers are going to take that list and they're going to say, okay, I'm just going to take care of this.
And if they decide not to take care of it, and the threshold is there a deficiency in this home that would cause a buyer not to buy the home or to pay a lesser amount for it?
Sure.
And if the answer is yes, then the owner may not have to disclose, but the realtor has to disclose.
Yeah.
And saying, I don't want to know about it, don't tell me, don't show me, probably isn't the best way to take this asset and get the very top dollar for it.
I agree. So what are some other services provided to the seller?
So once we know what we have, we've done our pregame, and now we're ready to roll. First thing we do is we want the property to be in really, really good condition. So, we encourage people, let us help you, help clear out some stuff, give you some suggestions, stage your property. It may not have to be professionally staged, but it can be staged where it looks really, really nice. And then we have our marketing plan. Our marketing plan is the same for each and every seller. It doesn't differ.
And let me stop you here. I think what's important for the consumer out there to understand, our clients, our prospects, is that you're going to get the same service across the board. So we're not going to have 200 agents with 200 different marketing plans. One who may be, not wanting to spend money on quality photography or not wanting to help out with the home inspection or help out with some of these things or staging, and another who does everything and anything, right? So with us, you're going to get consistency.
You're going to get consistency.
Yeah.
And that's really a business when you cannot set expectations to the customer because all of your agents do it differently.
Yeah.
Then the company doesn't have the value in setting expectations because discretion is the enemy of any system. So yesterday we put Longwood's going on the market today. Did a little video last night, and Chase and I were at the property last night because we were having the package done. The package involves a floor plan, the 3D videoing, photographs inside, photographs outside, drone. Everybody gets a drone.
Yeah.
And what's called twilight. They wait until just before dark and they do some beautiful pictures. Everybody gets the same package. Everybody gets the same package. People will see the floor plan. They can go in and they can interact with it on the computer. And why do we pay for that? Why do we pay for something that's going to cost us $1,000? Because that's the best thing for our client. It is the very best thing to drive the activity. We expose it to everybody through Bright MLS.
Yeah.
Bright links to so many different sites, including
Well, we
Zillow,
syndicated
Redfin.
through Next Home as well. And also, what people have to remember out there is we're not just putting your property in and giving a photo that we took with our iPhone of the property. I mean, by the time we get to the point where that property is going into MLS, it is parade ready.
It is parade ready.
Yeah.
Just the video last night that I took using my iPhone outside of the property while they were in doing their thing, just saying this is coming. This morning, 1,200 views.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Put it on last night, 1,200 views. There is excitement. Now they'll get to see this. I mean, any site that they look at, they are going to see, you put your best foot forward. They're going to see this beautiful property on 1.24 acres, absolutely ready to occupy. And it's going to be, every facet of that marketing is going to be done and ready to go.
Sure. And then, someone's going to walk in, they're going to fall in love. They're going to say, this is the home for me. They're going to submit an offer. And then what happens at that point?
Well, at that point now, it's great to have a property, but what we are is we're third-party limited authority.
Okay.
And that's the value of an agent. It's always been the value of an agent. Third-party limited authority is we don't make the decisions for you, but nobody can negotiate directly with you.
Correct.
So everything comes through us. You as our client are totally protected. We then come to you and we discuss all the interest in the property, and then we can manage to get you the very best deal.
Absolutely.
This last property that we had ready to go, and we listed it for one price, and we're currently under contract $15,000 higher, and we listed it where the market is.
Absolutely.
We listed it what we believe the top of that market is because our property was in top condition, but because of the excitement. Everybody that saw this and was excited about it because it was available to everybody. Everybody. Do you know there's $60 billion worth of property that is bought from folks from other countries in the United States?
Oh,
Well, how do you think they're seeing it?
Yeah.
How do you think they're seeing these sites? And these are residential properties. So we're exposing it to the world. And then we are going to honestly tell other folks, we are working your client's deal to get our client the very best deal.
Absolutely.
Because our duty, our fiduciary duty is to our client.
Let's talk about that a little bit. We talked when the settlement was going on, and after August 17th, we talked a little bit about fiduciary responsibility and duty to the client, and talk a little bit about how that's changed and how we do that just a little bit differently than everyone else.
Well, we do it differently, starting with the contract itself, which is the listing agreement. Our listing agreement, we market your property and we're going to work to get it sold for a 3% commission. That's what it is.
Yep.
Now, we do not offer a buyer commission with Next Home, the agency group. We just don't do it. The buyer's commission, if the buyer would like the seller to consider the buyer's obligation to pay a commission, and they would like the seller to either help out with it or pay it, they can make that part of the negotiation.
Sure.
The seller, once they see the total offer with what the client is offering, they can make a decision whether that they want to do that or not. Often a buyer will say, I'm going to offer you more than what my agent would cost, so I'm actually paying for my own representation. But that's how we do it. That way, in the event that somebody comes in and they're unrepresented, they don't have an agent, we will get our client to settlement for no additional commission. So we are going to negotiate the very best deal, which is often higher than we thought it was. In other words, we thought the top of the market was because of all of the excitement and activity and the lack of inventory.
Yep.
And when we negotiate, we're taking everything into consideration.
Absolutely.
Human behavior,
Yeah.
the market itself, supply and demand, condition of your property. And as we're doing that, our total responsibility is focusing on you.
Absolutely. And then on the buy side, so tell us a little bit about, as we're representing a buyer.
So as we're representing a buyer, we do the very best we can in the same manner. So the first thing we do is we sit down with our buyers and we comply with law and we explain the buying process. And we explain their responsibilities. We get them pre-qualified.
Yep.
We have Barry in Somerville,
Yep.
Myrtle Beach, and then we have Rob Heltzer, who's been on our show, and he's right here in Manassas, works right out of our office. And Rob will pre-qualify our buyers and make sure that they're ready to buy. And then we explain to the buyer how the real estate commission works. It's their responsibility. However, they can make it part of their negotiation.
Absolutely.
With speaking with the sellers. We've recently had one where they had negotiated a commission with us, and they have a lot of equity in the home they're selling. But on the buy side, they negotiated a commission that wasn't quite as much as we had in there.
Sure.
So they were still responsible for the balance, but we as a company said, we'll collect it when you sell your home since you bought before you sold.
On the other side.
And that way we make it manageable. So how do we do it? We can customize it to each situation to serve our clients and make sure that they do have our service, and we'll never negotiate our commission in a contract where they potentially could lose a deal.
Sure.
Because we're more concerned about us being paid than them getting the home.
Yeah, it's not about the agent. It's not about the broker. It's about the client, and we put them first. And I just think it's really crazy how many companies are still out there collecting the buyer broker commission at the listing appointment. Like, I just don't get it, because you're putting your seller at a disadvantage when it comes time to negotiate that contract. And I'm just hoping, I am seeing a little bit of, people saying, aha moments with other agents and other brokerages who are saying, okay, yeah, we kind of get that now. And they're kind of moving over to, everything being negotiated in the offer process. But it's just so frustrating to know how many sellers are just rubber stamping what they're going to pay a buyer broker upfront in advance without knowing the totality of the offer or what they're going to get. And it makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense. And if the deal that we're negotiating, representing our buyer, the seller says, absolutely, I'm not going to make any concession. I've got offers beyond yours. Then that's just not going to be the house for our buyer.
Sure.
However, they're not financially responsible for something that they are not agreeing to be financially responsible for.
Yeah, they make an offer. they put their buyer broker compensation in the offer. And if it gets countered and they're not in agreement, they don't have to accept the counter.
They don't have to accept
Yeah.
it. They're never put in an uncomfortable financial position that they don't agree to.
No. And at the end of the day, you know, the buyers and the sellers, I think they really like the way things are being done now versus the way they were done before August 17th. I think they like, especially with a buyer, you know, having to sit down with them, doing a comprehensive interview with that buyer, explaining, you know, the not only agency, but explaining the entire process. You know, most buyers never got that before August 17th. And I think they're going into the process more educated. And I think they're making better financial decisions as a result.
And looking from a seller's position, imagine going in and saying, we're hoping to sell your house for a certain amount.
Yeah.
We're obligating you to certain fees. So there is no surety that you're going to get the amount. So the entire time the seller is looking at this net sheet, they're saying, here's the price that we're shooting for. If we don't get it, I'm seeing the net diminish. And they have, you know, they're not 100% optimistic that they're going to hit that figure.
Absolutely.
Our way is you're looking at the contract. You know exactly how much they're offering. You know exactly what you're going to get. You can see that estimate. And now, what are they asking in return? Or they may be asking for a home inspection, a radon inspection. They may be asking you to pay the realtor. And you're simply looking at the bottom line and you're saying, if this price works out, which is what we're going to agree to, then we walk away. It's not about the concession to the buyer. It's about what the seller will net. It's always about that. The reason it works so much better the way we do it is because they're looking at the actual net rather than a proposed, but a commitment to pay something regardless of what they get for their home.
And I just want to say, you know, put this on the record. We have not had one seller since August 17th who have said they're not contributing towards a buyer broker commission because they see the value of having a really good agent on the other side.
Think about this. If you have your home on the market and you're a seller and you see all these competing offers and every single one of those buyers is asking you to contribute to their agent and you have some really strong offers. And that's a condition of the acceptance of that contract. They're going to happily do it because they can live with the figure at the bottom.
Absolutely. That's great. So, you know, just to kind of wrap this up, I think that, you know, what we want the consumers out there to know and what we want our, you know, past clients and our customers out there to know is that, you know, we're really focused on you. So the consumer, it's very different. I mean, we went from a broker-centric environment, you know, several decades ago. We moved into a more of an agent-centric environment. But I will say, you know, after the settlement, and you and I have been discussing this for years, you know, hey, if we ever, you know, go into business for ourselves again, it's gonna be about the consumer, right? That's gonna be number one. And all of our agents, the people who we choose to affiliate with and they choose to affiliate with us, we're all on the same page as it pertains to the customer being first.
You know something, Lonnie, we've always been that way. We started Count No Plaster in 1999. And every one of the real estate companies, the big box companies, were charging what's called a flat fee or an admin fee. They would just give it a name.
And they had just started back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But they would give it a name. And all it was is an additional commission on top of the commission. And Count No Plaster, we said this.
Said no.
No.
Just say no.
We're not going to do it. Just say no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. Just say no. Here's the deal. We're charging you a commission. Transparent, upfront. We can work our business with our admins, our processing. We can do everything you've hired us to do in just in the framework of that commission.
Full transparency.
Full transparency. We don't have to charge you other commissions and call them different things.
Junk fees.
Because you don't totally understand how our business works. And I'm telling you, a flat fee, processing fee, admin fee, whatever they call it,
It's a commission.
it's a commission.
Yeah.
And the reason they're charging it is to make additional profit on the company side on top of the commission that they're already obtaining through the deal. So this is why I just love us working together. Is we're like-minded. We are not forced to accept something that the company we're working for is putting out as a mandate.
Sure.
We can make decisions to serve the client, and in our heart knows every piece of it, every piece of the action. When we say focused on you, we're taking your particular circumstance, which may mean we're helping you take boxes out of the house. We're packing them in a truck. You know, we're driving you for wherever place. We're assisting you with legal opinions, getting an opinion. Recently, I called Art Grace and I said, Art, we have a will that I would like you to look at so you can tell us what it means, because we don't look at this stuff all the time. Meaning a seller doesn't. They've had a loss of a family member. It can be devastating. But hey, Art, would you do this for us? Absolutely. We have a team of people that will not charge you anything to give you great advice.
Absolutely.
And we will jump in and say, what is your circumstance? We will meet you where you are and take care of that. And we are happy to do it. So what does your service look like? It may look different than somebody else's service because they have resources that you don't have. We're going to make it work. So it's everything involved that we can do, setting expectations on what we will do, meeting those expectations and deadlines. That's what I love about having control of our own business.
Absolutely. And we surround ourselves with people who are also like-minded, which makes
it
easy, right?
Somebody asked me the other day, hey, if I may be thinking, or if I am ever thinking about changing companies, I said, let me make it crystal clear. I am not recruiting you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Now, I think you're a great person and all that. I'm not recruiting you. We don't recruit agents.
Yeah.
We attract people that have great character, that see things like-minded and want to make a difference and truly 100% serve our clients.
Absolutely. I think that's a good segment to end this podcast. And thank you very much, John. You want to take us out?
That's a wrap for episode 12 of RE in Real Time. Wait for you guys. Guys, thank you so much for watching RE in Real Time episode 12. If you're following us on Spotify, YouTube, or any of the social platforms, give us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you wanted to hear us talk about next episode. And until then, these are your hosts, Forrest and Lonnie of RE in Real Time.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right.
Take 5?
Yeah. How did we do on time?